if your wife has been pulling away from you, if her tone has changed and it feels like she doesn't really hear you anymore, there's a very real chance that what's actually happening is that she's losing respect for you. And I know it's not easy to hear, but if you're honest with yourself, you already feel it a little bit, right? But you didn't just wake up one day and decide to become someone their wife loses respect for. It happens slowly, quietly, and by the time you feel it, it already feels like you're behind. So in today's episode, I'm going to break down 5 ways you are unknowingly losing your wife's respect, and more importantly, how to start shifting those 5 things so you can not only rebuild the respect she has for you, but make her even more attracted to you than ever before. Before we get into the 5 ways, I just need to make sure that you clearly understand how important it is to have her respect if you want to have an amazing relationship with her where her attraction level is high for you. Women cannot be in love with a man they don't respect, which is why it is so hard for men to rebuild their marriages when they're on the brink, because fear takes them to a place where they're taking all these actions and wanting to save everything, but those actions help her lose respect for you for good. So with that in mind, let's break down where it's slipping for you, because these aren't obvious mistakes, so you probably don't know the level of damage that these subtle patterns are doing. These are quiet things that stack up and erode respect over time to a point where you're blindsided by the level of emotional disconnect your wife has in the relationship. So let's get into them. The first way you're losing your wife's respect is that you are trying so hard to be understood by her in conversations that are obviously often turning into arguments instead of being grounded. And I know you're going to hear that and think I'm crazy because it sounds ridiculous when you compare it to the commonplace advice we hear, which is you have to have really solid communication in your relationship. But what I'm talking about looks like this. You feel misunderstood in a conversation, so you try harder to explain yourself. You clarify and repeat the point you're trying to make, and you're defending your intention. She just doesn't seem to be understanding, so you get more and more frustrated. And in your mind, you're thinking, if she just understood what I'm trying to say, this would all be fine. But it just keeps going on in that circle of frustration. This is one of the biggest traps that men fall into and get frustrated by. And I know this because this used to be one of my greatest weaknesses that got me into so many issues and became the downfall of so many relationships of mine. But there is way more to everything than just having solid communication. Communication isn't just being about conveying your points and thought process in a clear way, at least not when you're dealing with feminine energy and emotions in relationships. All those logical points you're repeating because she isn't understanding you the first few times do not matter if you're not able to make her feel safe and understood beforehand. And the more you get frustrated trying to explain to her, the more your instability shows and she does not feel like interacting with someone who's not grounded. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the reality when you're trying to connect with feminine energy is that the more you try to be understood, the less solid you feel to her. And this is a great segue into the second way you're losing her respect without knowing it. You lose your center when things get emotional. This is where the foundation of respect really starts to develop the little cracks over repeated instances. It's not that you feel emotions or like you're not allowed to feel emotions. That is not the problem at all. I'm not trying to make you into this emotionless zombie or a boring coded AI, I guess, in today's world. The true issue is what happens when those emotions you have as a human start to take over your behavior. When she gets upset or expresses her emotions at a higher rate, which is much more natural for women, you get pulled into it. I know you can think back right now to a whole bunch of different instances where this has happened and you've felt this before. She's upset, her tone is sharp, and suddenly you're trying to defend yourself instead of just staying grounded. Now you're just reacting. Everything happens pretty quickly because it's emotionally charged, so you're doing kind of a mix of defending and shutting down, but ultimately showing great frustration. This is where the difference in masculine versus feminine energy plays such a key role, because women are driven more by emotion. She is not thinking logically in these moments. Remember what I said in the first way you're losing her respect, trying to be understood by using logic to explain to her. All she is feeling is how she's experiencing you and how she doesn't feel like she can settle into it. When you show that you will continue to lose your emotional center on so many occasions, that pattern decimates emotional safety for her over time. It starts to build up a confirmation bias in her head about how you show up, and respect and attraction start to fade the longer this pattern continues. This is why emotional discipline as the masculine leader of the relationship is so important. And it isn't just important when it comes to your relationship, it's actually so important in all areas of your life. Your ability to be steady and create emotional safety for her consistently over time is in direct correlation to her respect level and attraction for you and what will allow it to grow again. Okay, the third one is something that I think we can all relate to. I know there were many moments in my failed relationships, especially when my ex-fiance left me, where I became complacent, and I was guilty of this when things got rocky. You trade your standards for short-term peace. This one creeps up on you and doesn't feel like you're doing anything that bad, to be honest, but it is subtle and can be very, very dangerous to the relationship dynamic. You actively start avoiding conflict because you're tired and you feel like everything you do or say is making her upset with you. The go-to is to start keeping the peace by avoiding conflict because you start to think it's not worth the argument, and you just start letting things go, even if she's crossing your boundaries, because you don't want to make things worse. So you give in to the little things at first, and when it really isn't doing what you thought it would do, you start giving in to the bigger things as well, and you're not really standing on anything anymore. And this is where most guys think they're doing it right, but it's exactly what's costing them respect. Every time you abandon your position, she feels it, even if she gets her way in these individual moments. And over time, the respect starts to disappear because it's hard to respect a man she could completely have her way with and override. Respect doesn't grow when you keep the peace at your own expense. It grows when your actions reflect that you actually stand for something, even when that something may be uncomfortable. The fourth way you're losing your wife's respect is one that just destroys credibility extremely fast. This is where you show intention for things, but you don't follow through. For example, you say you're going to go to the gym, or you say you're going to start eating healthier, or a whole bunch of other intentional things you're saying you're going to do, but you never follow through. These ones may be a little more trivial, but still show a lack of congruence with your words, which is not going to look good to her. And the knockout punch is when you say you are going to change and you tell her all the things like you're going to listen more, you're going to make her feel understood, and all these little things, and you really, really mean it, and you feel it when you say it to her, but then a week later or 2 weeks later, you slip back during a conversation and you turn it into an argument trying to explain or logic your way to her heart. And now she's seen enough of this pattern, like enough times, that your words have no weight anymore. And once your words lose weight, everything starts to get filtered through that doubt, which is what the confirmation bias is that is building up in her head. So even when you're sincere, it doesn't land with her in any meaningful way because your consistency hasn't backed it up over and over again. This is where you start to get incredibly frustrated and start to put on the blame on her, thinking like, why can't she just see that I'm trying? But continuing to say the right things doesn't rebuild respect. Quiet, repeated follow through of the right actions, that consistency, that is what starts to change how she experiences you. And only then does the confirmation bias start to crack and go away. And finally, the fifth way you're losing your wife's respect is really the foundation for everything. It can be summed up as simply as this. If you are not leading yourself, there is absolutely no way you can lead the relationship. Leading yourself means you have to have purpose and direction. You have a solid set of standards in your own life and you live by them. Because when those standards start to slip, it shows up everywhere. Your energy drops, your discipline fades, and your presence weakens. If you're not going after your purpose and living in those standards, she feels a weakened presence and that starts to wane on her respect level for you. Even if she can't explain why. The reality is the man she was once drawn to had some form of direction. He had some edge. Think about when you first started dating a long time ago and think about how you are showing up now. Back then, she became attracted to you for a reason. And I'm willing to bet you are showing up much differently now than you did before. My guess is now you feel like a man who's just sort of waiting and watching her and reacting and hoping things just get better on their own instead of moving forward in your life with purpose. And when that happens, she starts pulling back because the dynamic is not even close to what it used to be. Respect starts with how you show up in your own life, not how you treat her. So now the question becomes, how do you turn this all around in the quickest way possible? Because hearing these 5 ways you're losing her respect and recognizing that you're doing some or all of these is one thing, but actually course correcting is another. This is going to sound very basic and unhelpful, but this is exactly how you have to approach this. You don't talk your way back into respect. You become consistent enough that she has no choice but to feel the difference. And the reason you do that is not for her reaction. You are taking ownership and doing that because you are done being in the position you're in right now and feeling the way you've been feeling, and you want to take control of the changes you can actually make. You are controlling the controllables. So that means you need to become someone who doesn't chase understanding from her, doesn't abandon himself to avoid tension, and you start operating from a place of internal structure where all of your actions, tone, and decisions reflect that of being grounded. If you focus on these key pillars, you will start to create immense change in how you feel about yourself, and that is what also allows her to experience you in a way that will cause her attraction to start to increase again. The key pillars to focus on are this: direction. Your life has to move somewhere with or without her. 2, emotional stability. You do not react. You absorb, you assess, and you respond. 3, integrity. Your word has to equal reality. You must be congruent in your actions with the things that you say. And finally, number 4, standards. You do not bend over backwards just to avoid discomfort thinking that you're going to change your mind by doing that. It's not her mind you need to change, it's the way she feels around you. When you start to live this way, you also can't fool yourself and think that you can just do it for maybe a few days, maybe a week, and start peeking your head up, looking around the corner for results and seeing if it's working or seeing if she's changing her mind. Don't be like most men who are so impatient, and the moment they don't see immediate change in her, they revert back and go start doing what they are doing before, which is ultimately going to cause her to lose respect for good. There is a lag in the results with her because of the confirmation bias she's built up. And that's the entire reason why you're living these standards for you and not that outcome. That outcome is going to be a byproduct of you regaining your own self-respect and confidence. I get that it feels easier to try and explain everything to her one last time so that she finally understands. But like I promise you from firsthand experience myself, it doesn't work. So if you're watching to this point, it means you probably most likely felt that shift in your relationship and that respect level from her. Like, you know something is off. The biggest mistake you can make would be thinking it fixes itself. It truly doesn't. But it can be rebuilt if you stop trying to manage her and her emotions and you start leading yourself again properly. If you feel like your wife has lost respect for you or is losing respect for you and you are very frustrated in the way your marriage is going, and you can see some of yourself in some or all of the 5 patterns I mentioned, that's actually not a bad thing because now you're aware of what's actually happening underneath. And that gives you a real opportunity to make the changes and take the right path forward. So if you're recognizing yourself in this and you don't want to keep making the same mistakes, go and watch my free Relationship Rebuild Masterclass. I break down the path step by step and give you the right direction to save your marriage in the fastest way possible. Don't waste any more time thinking she's just going to magically come around. You can find the link for that free masterclass in the description and pinned comment below. If this video helped you out, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well. I'll see you in the next episode real soon.